And by the way, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Please share with us in the comments. David Thompson walked through the grand entrance of the extravagant hotel he owned, his footsteps echoing faintly against the sleek marble floors. Above, the chandeliers sparkled like distant stars frozen in time, their golden glow illuminating the vast lobby. It was a breathtaking scene, one designed to impress, but despite the undeniable beauty around him, something felt wrong. Employees were hustling around, but their smiles? They appeared to be reserved only for those they deemed worthy of such attention. As David approached the front desk, he noticed two young receptionists, Sarah and Emily, whispering and chuckling to each other. Sarah's sleek blonde ponytail bobbed with each movement, and as she leaned in towards Emily, she cast a barely concealed look of disdain in David's direction. "Can I help you?" Sarah asked, her voice flat and devoid of any warmth. David replied calmly, "Yes, I have a reservation under the name John Adams." He caught Emily muttering something to Sarah, something about him being probably another wannabe VIP, followed by a smug smirk. Sarah slowly tapped at her keyboard, as though making him wait was part of her job description. "We'll need a few moments to verify your booking," Sarah said, her gaze now flicking down to his simple, unassuming attire. Dark jeans and a tailored jacket with no flashy logos. It was the kind of outfit that screamed understated elegance, but to her, it clearly wasn't enough. David held back his rising disappointment. He wasn't here just to stay at his own hotel. He was here to get to the bottom of the staff's treatment of guests, especially those who didn't match their high-status expectations. He watched closely as Sarah and Emily exchanged another condescending glance. His jaw clenched, but he kept his composure. "Let's see how this plays out," he thought to himself, standing still as the two receptionists continued their silent exchange, their dismissive attitudes becoming more apparent. David stood at the counter, observing every small interaction as Emily crossed her arms and leaned back, whispering to Sarah with a mocking smirk. "He looks like he just walked in off the street," Emily said under her breath. Sarah stifled a laugh, her eyes lingering on David. The facade of professionalism was crumbling quickly. After what felt like an eternity, Sarah finally typed with a slow, deliberate pace, glancing at David with a cold expression. "I see your reservation, Mr. Adams," she said, but her tone remained curt and dismissive. "However, the suite you requested isn't ready yet. We might be able to accommodate you tomorrow." David raised an eyebrow in surprise. "Tomorrow? My booking was confirmed weeks ago." Sarah shrugged nonchalantly. "These things happen. High-demand clients get priority." Before David could respond, Emily stepped forward, putting on a smile that was far too rehearsed to be genuine. "Perhaps you'd prefer a room in our executive wing? It would be more suitable," she suggested, her eyes scanning him with barely concealed judgment. David's voice remained steady as he repeated her words. "More suitables?" He caught the subtle, patronizing tone but decided to hold his ground, not revealing his true identity just yet. Behind him, a well-dressed couple arrived, and Sarah's entire demeanor shifted. Her smile was now bright and welcoming as she beamed at the new guests. "Good evening. Welcome to the Grand Horizon," Sarah greeted them, her voice oozing with hospitality. David stepped aside to watch as the couple was checked in without any issues. No delays, no excuses, just flawless service, something he had come to expect from his own business. His patience was wearing thin, but he reminded himself of the real reason he was here, to see firsthand just how poorly guests were treated. And at this point, it was worse than he could have imagined. "Take your time," David said calmly, stepping aside to allow the staff to handle their new guests. But inside, his thoughts raced. Changes were clearly overdue. He wandered through the grand lobby, after being told his room would take another hour or two. The sparkling chandeliers above cast a soft golden glow on the marble floors, but despite the luxurious surroundings, David couldn't shake the bitter taste left from his earlier encounter with Sarah and Emily. As he walked further into the hotel, the weight of the situation began to settle on him. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check Importa. Who books a suite like that without a luxury cars? Sarah chuckled softly, her voice dripping with judgment. Emily leaned in, whispering back, maybe he's one of those wannabes who saved up just to impress someone. David's jaw clenched. He was all too familiar with this narrative, prejudice disguised as politeness. People making snap judgments about his character based solely on his appearance. His posture stiffened as he walked toward the lounge area, taking a seat by the window. Outside, tourists wandered along the palm-lined avenue, their laughter a sharp contrast to the discontent building inside him. He had fought tirelessly for years to build his business empire and provide opportunities for others, yet moments like this served as a stark reminder of how easily he could be dismissed, even in a place he owned. A young server, Maria, approached with a hesitant but warm smile. "Good evening, sir. Would you like something to drink?" David softened, sensing the genuine kindness in her voice. "Just water for now. Thank you." Maria returned swiftly, placing the glass in front of him with a quiet care. "If you need anything else, don't hesitate to ask." David smiled, grateful for her sincerity. He glanced at her name tag, appreciating the contrast between her warmth and the coldness he had encountered earlier. It made him wonder how many other employees at the hotel were overshadowed by the toxic attitudes at the top. But before he could reflect too long, the tension escalated again. From across the lounge, he overheard Sarah and Emily laughing, louder now, as they moved away from the desk and into a nearby seating area. Apparently, they hadn't noticed or simply didn't care that he could hear them. "Betty's going to ask for a discount next," Emily said, shaking her head in disbelief. "These people always do." Sarah snorted. "They act like they belong in places like this. It's embarrassing." David's fists tightened under the table. The sting wasn't about them doubting his wealth or status. It was about the broader mindset they represented. A lack of respect for anyone who didn't fit their narrow, elitist view of success. He stood up abruptly, causing Maria to glance over with concern. "Is everything all right, sir?" she asked. David took a calming breath. "Yes, Maria. Thank you." His next steps were clear. He needed to confront this behavior, but not out of immediate anger. There was power in revealing the truth with calculated precision. With a steady hand, he dialed a number on his phone. "Carrara, I need you to meet me here tomorrow morning. We have a situation." Carrara, his executive assistant, was no stranger to handling crises, but this one was personal. David could sense the urgency in her voice. "Of course, Mr. Adams. I'll be there at 8 sharp." Ending the call, David returned to the reception area. His face was unreadable as he approached Sarah and Emily. They quickly masked their smirks as he neared. "Any updates on my room?" David asked, his voice steady. Just a few more minutes, Mr. Adams," Sarah stammered, her earlier confidence faltering slightly. David leaned in, his gaze sharp. "Take your time. I'll be watching how things are handled." As he walked away, his words hung in the air. Emily shifted nervously and whispered to Sarah, "Did he hear us?" Sarah shrugged, attempting to play it cool. "Doesn't matter. He's nobody important." But deep down, a spark of doubt had ignited in both women. Later that evening, David ascended to the temporary room they had finally provided. He knew that tomorrow would bring a reckoning. He had given Sarah and Emily a chance to correct their behavior, but they had failed, spectacularly. This wasn't just about him. It was about ensuring that no other guest would ever experience such treatment at his establishment again. The next morning, David stood near the hotel entrance, waiting for Carrara. The sun bathed the building's glass facade in a soft golden glow, yet David's mind was firmly focused on the storm that was about to unfold. He wore a sleek navy suit, the epitome of calm authority. Today, he wouldn't be the anonymous guest Sarah and Emily had mocked. Today, they would meet the real owner. A black sedan pulled up, and Carrara, a poised woman in her 30s with sharp eyes and an air of confidence, stepped out. "Good morning, Mr. Adams." She greeted him with a firm handshake. "Morning, Carrara. I hope you're ready for a little reality check," David said, a hint of dry humor in his voice. "Excuse me," Carrara said, her voice firm and no nonsense. "I'm here to meet Mr. Adams, the owner of this hotel." Sarah froze. Her smile became stiff and forced. "The owner," she echoed, disbelief in her voice. Emily glanced nervously at David, her mind racing. Mr. Adams? No, it couldn't be him. David stepped forward, his gaze locking with the two women's. Yes, I am the owner, and I believe we need to have a conversation about your conduct yesterday. The color drained from Sarah's face. Sir, I didn't realize. David interrupted, his tone firm but calm. You didn't realize?
No.
You assumed. And in doing so, you disrespected a paying guest and tarnished the reputation of this establishment. Kara observed silently, her eyes taking in every detail, making mental notes of the exchange as David continued. This isn't just about me, he said, his voice growing in intensity. It's about how you treat every guest who walks through these doors. I built this hotel with the vision that every guest, no matter their appearance or status, would be treated equally. What you demonstrated yesterday was the exact opposite of that. Sarah's mouth went dry as she swallowed hard, her eyes wide with panic. Mr. Adams, I didn't mean… No excuses, David cut her off, his voice colder now. Apologies mean nothing without accountability. I expect better from my team, and if you can't meet those expectations, you won't have a place here. The lobby had gone eerily quiet. Other employees, who had been watching from a distance, were now fully aware that this moment would set a new standard in the hotel. This wasn't just a reprimand, it was a turning point. Effective immediately, David continued, you both will undergo disciplinary review and sensitivity training. I suggest you take this opportunity to reflect and improve. Consider this your only warning. Sarah and Emily nodded silently, the full weight of their actions sinking in. Later that afternoon, David sat in the hotel's executive lounge, sipping a warm cup of freshly brewed coffee. The atmosphere was peaceful now, with soft jazz music floating in the background. The tension from earlier had faded, replaced by a quiet sense of accomplishment. He had delivered a clear message, not just to Sarah and Emily, but to every staff member who had witnessed the confrontation. Kara soon joined him, taking a seat across from David at the table. You handled that well, she said, setting down a tablet. They won't forget this day anytime soon. David smiled faintly, his expression thoughtful. Good, but I want lasting change, not just fear. It's about creating a culture of respect and empathy. Kara nodded thoughtfully, agreeing. Understood. We'll revise staff training protocols and ensure that every employee knows the importance of treating guests with dignity. As they spoke, a staff member approached the table hesitantly. Mr. Adams, they began, voice cautious. I just wanted to say thank you. We've heard about what happened earlier, and it's inspiring to see you care so much about both the guests and the staff. David's smile softened, a genuine warmth in his eyes. Thank you. That means a lot. As the sun began to dip lower on the horizon, casting a warm glow over the hotel's facade, David reflected on the day's events. Leadership, he realized, wasn't just about wielding power, it was about setting an example for others to follow. Have you ever faced a situation where you were unfairly judged or mistreated? He wondered, looking out the window at the world beyond. Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening tales like this one.